Hi, welcome to my channel. And if you're new here, thank you for tuning in. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you for always engaging with all of my content. I do not take it for granted, guys. So in today's video, I would be sharing 5 type of inseams finishing you can use when you don't have an overlocker. So stay tuned and let's get right into the video. So the first one I would like to be showing is the one with the pinkish shares, although I do not have it or I did not show it in this video. So the first thing you need to do is to make your straight stitch at first, which is going to be your original sewing stitch. Now that you're done with your straight stitch, I'm going to assume this is your sewing allowance, so you're going to go ahead to cut it with your pinky shears. But now I'm going to show you the next one, which is a zigzag stitch. I have the zigzag option on my domestic machine, and I'm just going to change that and change every other options I need to use. So that is what I'm going ahead to do. I'm changing the stitch option, changing the stitch length and the stitch width also. Now you're done, and this is what the zigzag stitch is going to look like, which is quite nice and neat. Now we're moving on to the next stitch. You have to change your sewing setting back to straight stitch. Do not forget that. Anytime I use the zigzag stitch, I have to always change back to my straight seam stitch. For the next one, which is the bias binding, I'm going to need a bias, which I already have. Well, at this point you can decide to make yours, but I already have a ready-made bias, and that is what I am going to be using. So at first you're going to make your normal straight stitch, which is supposed to be your sewing stitch on your fabric, your project, whatever it is, and then you go ahead to use the bias. As you can see, my bias is folded into like 3, the main one, and then 2 on each side. So I'm going to take one of the sides, especially the one on the right side, and open my fabric, like my stitch, my sewing allowance, take it from the back as you can see in the video, sew that down at first. Don't forget to leave like 2 centimeters above your sewing allowance using the bias, and then you sew that down first. So right now you're done and you want to sew down the rest. So you have to first of all fold down the allowance you've left at the top part and at the down part, as you can see in the video. Then folding the remaining part inside. First of all, fold down from the allowance you've left at the top and at the bottom side also. So let me show you again. You fold it down at the top and bottom side, then you fold it in and then again. So this is what it's going to look like. I hope you pay carefully attention here. So after doing all the folding up and down and then sideways, you can go ahead to your sewing machine and then stitch that down. Now this is what the bias binding looks like when it is done. I think this is also one of the easiest you can also try out, and this is, then you'd also do it for the other side. Now we're moving on to the next one. This can be a little bit taxing. It is called the flat felt seam, but it's easy if you pay attention. So you go ahead to first of all make your straight stitch, which is going to be your sewing stitch as well. And this can be used in trousers, in shirts, depending on the project you're working on. So now you're done making your sewing stitch. You're going to go ahead to take just one side of your sewing allowance and then reduce it to the barest minimum, and that is to reduce the bulkiness because of the way the sewing is. So now you're done cutting just one side of your sewing allowance. You're going to go ahead to fold it in once and then open your fabric, as you can see in the video, and then lay that down. For this, I'm going to advise you use your ironing. So you have to go to the iron table and then iron that, which I'm also going to show in the video. So I'm just ironing my fabric at first, then I make the first fold, also iron that down. So now I'm done ironing the first fold. I'm going to go ahead to open my fabric and also lay the fold down and also iron that. After I am done with the ironing, I am going to go ahead to my sewing machine and also stitch that down. Now at the point that I am done stitching the first part down, I can go ahead to make another stitch by the side towards the left or right, depending on when you have your first stitch. So this is going to be so close to the sewing stitch side, and then it's gonna give it like a kind of two seam look, which I think is very clean and lovely. At this point, we're done with the flat felt seam and we're moving to the next one, which is the French seam. I'd like for you to pay attention because of the way this is. Now you're gonna have your sewing stitch marked, but turn your fabric to the other side first, meaning you're going to be sewing from the right side initially, about just a little sufficient stitch, which you're gonna see in the video. Now I'm done with the first stitch. I'm going to go ahead to then turn it back. You can see the reason why your sewing allowance marking at first is very important, just in case you mistakenly go ahead of it, out of it. And it also allows you to pay attention to how much you can sew and then where you're gonna sew by the time you have to turn it to the back. So now I'm just going over to my ironing board to make it as flat as possible, and as you can see, and then you go ahead to make your final stitch, which is going to be on the mark you already made. But before I do that, I am going to go ahead to reduce the first stitch I already made, just to make sure it doesn't show on the other side when I am done with my main stitch. By the way guys, I used this Inseam finishing for the sewing of one of my kimono, which I have the video and I'm going to link it down in the comment section. So if you want to see how it looks like when you're working on a project, just make sure to watch that video. At this point I'm done and I'm just going ahead to make my final stitch, which is going to be on my initial sewing allowance, the mark I have, which is blue. You can see it. So that is the reason why I feel like it's very important for you to mark your sewing allowance initially, so it's kind of like a guideline and makes you to do the right thing. Now this is what it looks like, and I think it's going to be good to use in fabrics that are see-through, and it's so going to be so clean. By now we're done with the video. I hope you enjoyed it. This is what the bias looks like, and this is what the zigzag looks like. So at this point guys, if you're yet to subscribe to my channel, kindly click the subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you get notified on my next video by the time I upload. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and found it helpful. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up and leave me a comment down in the comment section. I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.